Finance and Physical Resources Committee meeting. It is Tuesday, February 5th at 8:30. I'd like to welcome fellow commissioners, staff, and those from the public who come to attend. With that, we're going to start with public comment. Is there any public that would like to address the Finance and Physical Resources Committee this morning? Okay, seeing none, we will close public comment. That will bring us to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any items that have to be pulled? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. The consent agenda passes. That brings us to item 3 on the agenda, Fiscal Services Purchasing Division, Kent County Fire Commission contract revision. Wayman?
Yes, this is a request to the board to authorize the board chair or designee to sign the revised Kent County Fire Commission contract and formula between Kent County and the Kent County Fire Commission member agencies. The Kent County Fire Commission contract and contribution schedule has not been updated since 1978. The Kent County Fire Commission Board has determined the contract is outdated and requires modification to more fairly assess costs to member agencies. The Fire Commission Board conducted work sessions at their monthly meetings to review all aspects of membership. The work session subjects included value of membership, governance, administration, fire apparatus acquisition, assessment, and membership. The information resulted from these work sessions was used for the basis to draft the revised contract. The revised contract adds clarity to membership. It addresses membership and membership benefits, terms of membership, termination of membership, new membership, Fire Commission Board governance and administration, fire apparatus acquisition and sale of apparatus, budget, assessment, and finances, among other terms. Fire Commission contribution to firefighting supplies is eliminated. The Kent County Fire Commission Board approved the contract revision at their December 2018 meeting and request the Kent County Board of Commissioners to authorize the contract revisions. Kent County Fire Commission member agencies will be asked to vote on the modifications subsequent to the Board of Commissioners authorization. Member agencies must approve the contract by 3/4 member favorable votes.
Okay, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. We'll take questions, comments, and discussion. Yes, Commissioner Bukowski.
Thank you, Chair. I first thank the Fire Commission for their work on this and looking into it. My first question is, why do we have a Fire Commission? The first whereas says it was formed in 1942, and the second whereas says the department no longer exists. And then it talks about, then we created the Fire Commission and all those pieces. So why do we continue having this and the purpose for it? And then I'll follow up with a quick question after that.
Let's have one of our historians come up and give us a brief summation of that. Cal Briggs has...
I mean, the history, I'm more concerned about today going forward. I understand how we got to today. And again, understanding that the formula doesn't work because it's 40 years old. It doesn't work as well as it could. I understand all that. However, why continue to do this? And maybe also within the context of, we had conversations over the past few years about potentially a consolidated dispatch. We did the 911 surcharge to fund fire dispatch. Just within the context of how we provide fire service throughout the whole county, how does this fit? Is there still a need for it?
Cal, you want to take a shot at it, and
I will take a shot at it. First, you asked, it started out as the fire department. And if you caught from the presentation in the 40s and 50s, it was renamed to Fire Commission as it grew and was increased in size. So it still does exist and goes back to a Fire Commission and was a renaming back in the 40s and 50s. The second question is why does it exist today? The Fire Commission strengthens and is a collaborative that helps the smaller townships. So the smaller you are, the further you're out, it strengthens their fire protection on it. So for example, if a small township or a village is going down the road and their brakes give out, their truck is out of service. And so as this collaborative exists to gather the members alongside of the county, so it's not just the counties, the county and the members assist. So for example, into last week, one of our small townships, the fire apparatus or primary responder, the brakes went out. And it's a $4,000 bill. That's a tremendous amount of hit. And so the further you leave the core, the more difficult it is. And so this is a collaborative where our townships and the county side by side support the rural areas. Now, if it did exist, as we would weaken the rural areas and the fire response, then we're relying more on the core. So as you come towards the city or the bigger townships, we'd be relying more on them to further reach out. So hopefully that answers your question.
Well, I'm going to add one more thing, Cal, if I could. So I was a former chair of the Fire Commission, and of course, a number of the districts that I represent are members of the Fire Commission, as are some of the other commissioners here representing the areas that have members that participate in the benefits of the Fire Commission. One of the biggest benefits, in addition to what Cal had said, is there's also a fire truck rotation. I don't know if you've watched the new cost of fire trucks. They've gone up a lot, to the point that the membership really counts on that for their equipment to get updated, along with an insurance benefit, because if they are members, they belong to a pool, and all their vehicles are insured with one policy. So those are two big keys in why this still happens. If you disband this, then that benefit doesn't happen anymore, because you don't have a member organization that's organized here to provide those benefits.
Well, and then just the follow-up on that, I definitely appreciate the cost of vehicles going up. While I'm not familiar with the cost of fire apparatus, I'm aware of the cost of just compactors at the landfill and how expensive those critters are pushing our garbage down. That being said, still, is it the Fire Commission's role, or is it somebody else's role, or is it just not on anybody's radar when we look at, again, for example, we have, 2 dispatch centers in the county right now, the sheriff and the city of Grand Rapids. City of Cedar Springs disbanded its police department in favor of the sheriff doing that patrol. Are we looking at what really are the needs for fire protection in those far outreaches of the county, or is that just not part of conversations at this time?
I can partially answer that. First, within the contract, we recognize that. So in the updated contract, in the event that we were to go to a regional authority, that someone starts somewhere, then the Fire Commission ceases to exist. It goes away. So if we were to get to there someday, then the Fire Commission is terminated within the contract that you have in front of you. I know it's discussed, and I certainly am not an expert or knowledgeable in that area. I know it's discussed at the Fire Chief Association occasionally. Our former administrator brought somebody down who I met with several years ago to discuss that. So it comes up in various forms in various areas. But currently and today at this point in time, that's why we are continuing with the fire.
All right, thank you so much.
Just an additional point on this, Commissioner Bukowski, that whether this goes out of committee or not, whether this goes to the board or not, it doesn't cease the Fire Commission to exist. It will continue to operate under its current formulas and contract, okay? This is just many years of work to get to this point, to get it updated. But if it doesn't leave committee, if it doesn't get to the board, the fire commission still exists. Okay, I just want to make that clear.
Right, and just, I guess, sorry for my last piece on this. Yeah, I noted to a couple of folks before the meeting, I failed to ask you questions when you were here 2 weeks ago for the special order of business. I was unfortunately lost in cold medication, and so couldn't formulate questions as well as I'm formulating them today. But that being said, sorry, a little sarcasm. I'm not doubting, I guess, the good work of the Fire Commission and putting this together. I'm trying to stay high up. I'm not looking into the weeds of this. I definitely appreciate, again, some note for the potential of regional authority down the road. There's plenty of opportunities for townships to leave and enter, the county to leave and enter. So, I mean, that's all built in the agreement. So I'm not looking at that part of it. I'm trying to stay up, again, the high level, saying, tell me why this needs to continue to exist. And I'm hearing that there are definitely needs and it's still a purpose as it's brought here, and just feeling not enough. I mean, at least right now, am I having enough time to answer that? So looking forward to, I know Commissioner Morgan had his hand up. So.
Yep. Commissioner Morgan?
And of course, whatever it's worth, you all know it. I mean, I live just a couple miles down the street, and I walk by my nearest fire barn all the time, and I'm assuming, I think the nearest fire barn's closer to my house than Commissioner Morgan's mailbox is to his house. So that, I just have a different frame of reference when it comes to these things. So anyways,
Commissioner Morgan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to start out by saying this is probably one of our longest-running collaborative projects or programs we've had in the county. And it just doesn't, when you talk about fire apparatus, I don't want you to get lost in a pumper or anything like that. It also includes medical response vehicles, command vehicles are eligible, all of this. So what's going on in the out counties, it's mostly the medical emergencies that's going on. And so we do need a first responder presence out there, because without a first responder presence, the whole county program, the county program for EMS kind of evaporates and disintegrates. So you can be on 131 and from the city of Grand Rapids and be in a horrific car accident, and what rolls up on the scene is one of these units. Not, from the city of Grand Rapids or from Wyoming. It's one of these. So, and for $300,000, I think it's one of the best, and it's a matching program. I would love, if we want to throw this out, I would love to look at all of our programs on how much is matched, how much we give, and then let's lay the marker out that we're not going to start doing these programs unless there's a 50% match. Let's start there. That's where I'd like to start. If that's the attitude we're going to have, I just can't believe it, because there's a lot of things that comes through here that I am all in favor for that absolutely does not benefit my district at all. But I take the view of the county's interest as a whole, and that includes cities, townships, and yes, villages. So I'm just a little bit taken back. We have a $300,000 project here that's matched by 15 or 16 departments, and we have it under a microscope, for crying out loud. If that's where we want to go, I'll go with you. I'll go. But I'm just telling you, I'm going to fly spec everything. And if that's the marker we want, that you have to have a 50% match on any program, I'm there. So that's all I have to say about that.
Thank you, Commissioner Morgan. Commissioner Antor.
Thank you, Chair. I've been on the fire board now, I think, about 6 years. I'm not exactly sure, but I've seen a big change. And one of the biggest changes is the price, the cost of buying apparatus, and all the insurances that keep going up every year. And I've been amazed at, one, redoing this contract was a huge job. And Diane, you were the one that orchestrated that. we use the term heavy lift whenever we get involved in something in government, which I'm not sure it was a heavy lift. It was a comprehensive, complicated lift, and one of the things that I find, especially out in the outlying areas, there's a lot of collaboration amongst police department or fire departments, sometimes police departments as well. And that's almost required because sometimes you have a department that may have a special piece of equipment that another department needs. So they collaborate, they go back and forth. And I know with Sparta, one of the things that happened, we kind of reinvented what type of equipment we can get. And Sparta, I think, was the first village or township to get a used vehicle. And we got this tanker, okay, or it's a platform truck. And they got it for about half price, and it was virtually brand new. They got it from down south in a flooded out area. There was some damage done to the truck. It was retooled, redone, so they basically got a brand new platform for half the cost. And that was the first time we've ever allowed a used vehicle to be included. What's good about that, I mean, from the county standpoint, is any future repairs won't be covered by the county, only because it's a used vehicle. There's a certain amount of risk they took, so we won't have any additional cost. But now, in essence, not only does Sparta have it, Algoma has it, Kent City has it, Alpine has it, because we service all, you know, when there's an emergency, that platform will go wherever they need it in northern Kent County, because we don't have a platform truck up there. So now we do. So I just wanted to say, from my viewpoint, sitting on that board, it's a tremendous asset that kind of makes up for lost ground for being in an outlying area. It allows us to try to protect our citizens as best we can. And I agree with Roger. I think it's a smoking deal for us and for those townships and villages. And the other key is not all of the villages or cities that are eligible participate, okay? Some of them choose not to. So it's not like this is such a great deal that everybody's jumping on board. It's not that way at all. We've made it as fair as we can for everybody, but not everybody's going to participate in it. So I love being a part of this board, and I think we're really providing a great service. And I'd hate to see this thing go away, because we would leave these villages and townships in a lurch. And, part of our job is to protect and assist. So thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Whitten?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to echo the thoughts that have been used previously. Obviously, I do see a value in this entity. And when we have smaller communities working together to purchase apparatus, to pool resources, that makes sense to me. My question is with the 50-50 match, because you know, like any person in their late 20s, I spent my evening looking at census data. But what I did was I looked at the population of the fire commission areas compared to the rest of the county, and it's 26.85%. It's roughly a little under 30% of the population. And so I wonder, are there any other entities where 50% of the authority's budget comes from the entire county, but it only serves 30% of the population? Again, see the value. I just wonder where the 50-50 match principle came from, and whether or not it shouldn't be proportional to the population that's being served of the county. And just wondering maybe if Mr. Brinks can provide a background of the 50-50 match principle.
I can't, I would not know the background because it's such long-standing as why in proportion to the total county population. But I can answer the question of population as a percentage to the members. When you dig into the assessment, that is one of the key measurements of the assessment. So for example, it measures it on population, it measures it on SEV, and it measures it today on local member contribution to their fire department. The folks who set the assessment, whether I believe it was in the 70s, but back forward, by design set it that way for the reasons that I believe that you're stating. The bigger you are in population and SAV, the less advantageous it is for it to be a fire commission member. And that is by design as the original intent. And so the smaller you are, the more advantage you are. And that's why as you move towards the core, you see less members. And so it was calculated for that specific purpose of assisting those who are in the most need of it. And it's a major part of the contribution. of the calculation.
Thank you. So that makes a lot of sense. But there's not necessarily any background beyond the fact that it was created by the county, why essentially half the budget just comes from the county general fund. That's seems to be just a existing precedent caused from the fact that we created it, at least from my.
On a 50-50 split,
Yeah.
it comes from the general fund, that's
Yeah.
correct, with a matching as been pointed out by the members.
Yeah.
And it's a business decision. The bigger you are, and we've had townships and we've had cities who have left because it comes based on the assessment. The bigger you are, the less advantage to belong.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Voorhees?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I thought Commissioner Morgan brought up a good point about the concern on just picking residency as the qualifier. I'm not a resident of any of those entities. I'm a resident of the city of Wyoming. But at times I drive through those townships and then I am like a resident. I need service. And I think we have to look at the bigger picture of how do we do the best for Kent County, for its residents, whether they're residents of the townships or the city, and to our guests. We do a lot and spend a lot of money on inviting tourists to West Michigan and to Kent County. We need to protect all of our visitors, all of our residents, and I truly support the work of the Fire Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I just have one follow-up if
Yes.
everybody's done. It hasn't had a chance to speak yet, Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Commissioner Morgan.
Okay, thank you.
Cal, is there any benefit to a non-member that they may receive from the establishment and the ongoing through bidding or something like that, that you had the opportunity for a city fire department to go ahead and join some of the benefits through a bid process or anything like that?
Yes, I shared that a little bit in my presentation a couple weeks ago, but there's quite a bit. If you imagine the Kent County Fire Commission as an entity, we have this unique ability to bring our townships and villages purchases together under the Fire Commission board. So we bid for the Fire Commission and its members that they receive the benefit. But in addition to that, for example, a few years ago, one of our members, one of our bigger members, received a grant for a significant purchase. At that point, we reached out to the non-members and gave them an opportunity to participate as well. So there is an offsetting benefit on that, and it goes both ways. The Fire Commission, for example, uses the City of Grand Rapids contract for maintenance. And so there's this collaboration that's going behind the scenes. Now, granted, over the last few years, your purchasing office has been incredibly busy with the financial install and some other things, so we have pulled our attention away from that, but are now, this year, coming back and refocusing on collaboration, both in that arena, but as a whole. We do many collaborative bids across all agencies.
Yes, Commissioner Bukowski.
I just want to say thanks to everybody for the opportunity for me to learn more about the Fire Commission at this time and the value that it has in our community. Because again, I'll just leave it at that. So thank you for indulging me in the early parts of February.
Okay, Commissioner Womack?
Yes, I had a few questions. In the contract where it says, or at least in our agenda where it says the entity no longer exists, it seems that it does exist, so could you kind of give us some clarification on that?
No, that was are you following up on my earlier comment?
Yeah. Yes, because when you asked it, I didn't really hear, the answer, in clarity.
Back in the 1942, when the fire, what we know as the Fire Commission was established, it was established as the Kent County Fire Department. In the 40s, I believe it was, or early 50s, The Board of Commissioners here renamed it to the Kent County Fire Commission and assigned a board to overview it. During the 40s and 50s, the Fire Commission, which really is a county department, had employees and operated to provide fire protection for the rural areas. And so it's existed, it's just existed in different names. And so today we know it as the Fire Commission, operating over with members within its entity, and your purchasing office is a liaison to it.
Okay, also, where is the equipment stored and what entity owns this equipment? Is it the county that owns the equipment? Is it the fire commission? Where is it stored? What village or city?
All right. The equipment is stored at the members' fire station today. In the 40s, it was stored at road commission facilities, but as the townships established fire departments, is stored in their facilities.
And where is that located?
All throughout, if you, here is the whole northern sector of Kent County. As you look to the west, it's Virgins and Lowell, and as you look to the south, it's Caledonia.
Okay.
And so anything pretty much north is that, and so the fire apparatuses are stored at all those locations. When the Fire Commission purchases the apparatus, unless it's a used apparatus, and so most of them are new apparatuses, they're titled in the Kent County's name, not Kent County Fire Commission. We're the owners of Kent County. At the point that it's rotated out, we offer it at a depreciated schedule to the member department to purchase.
And who are the members?
I'll help you with that one. If you turn to the contract and go to the top of page 1 of 15, you'll see the agreement with the members listed: Ada, Algoma, Alpine, Caledonia, Cannon, Cortland, Grattan, Lowell, Nelson, Oakfield, Plainfield, Solon, Spencer, Tyrone, Virgins, Village of Sand Lake, and the cities of Cedar Springs, Lowell, Rockford, and Sparta.
Thank you. That's very important. I'm glad to know how many villages and townships we have a part. I believe that, you know, if we had to pay $300,000 to save one life, it's worth it. So I definitely agree with the other commissioner that it's been very enlightening to hear some of the information. And I also hope that commissioners, I take this time to also say that we're going to have some issues that are in other districts, including in the city of Grand Rapids, that we're going to need support from the commissioners from the rural areas to understand that sometimes we are Kent County residents in Grand Rapids who are taxpayers to Kent County that need extra help. And a lot of times when we bring that to the board, we get commissioners that say, well, sometimes it's not actually said out there, but it's insinuated that the city of Grand Rapids can handle all its own problems, or certain problems. I wouldn't say all, that would be misleading, but certain problems. But when whether it comes to crime, health, and of course our Kent County Health Department is doing a good job. It was great to see our rural commissioners overwhelmingly support those children with the lead problems in my district, 49507. But there may be other issues where, as a commission, we have to stick together. And like today, I definitely will be supporting those 30% of the people, because like I said, if it took $300,000 to save one life, it would be worth it. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Cal.
Okay, anyone else? Yes, Commissioner Antore.
Just quick house cleaning issue. Sparta actually is listed here as a city, and it's a township, and we also have a village, but not a city of Sparta, so not that it makes any difference.
On the contract, we adjusted. Sparta joined after the other members, and I believe it was in the 90s. They came in as an authority.
Yeah, it's the Sparta Fire Authority.
So under the contract, it's adjusted as the Sparta Fire Authority, representing Sparta Township and Sparta.
Yeah, just on here it says it was listed as a city, so I just wanted to make.
Well, and it says and. So this the cities, and then it says and Sparta Fire Authority.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
I should have read a little further.
That's okay. It's all right. Anyone else? Yes, Commissioner Whitten.
I just wanted to thank everyone for the background on the Fire Commission and the work that's been done. Clearly there's been a lot as Commissioner Antor mentioned, a comprehensive lift. I still struggle with looking at Exhibit A, the contribution formula, that 50% comes from the county as a whole and 50% comes from the members. And part of this comes from my own desire to have a top-to-bottom review of how our services end up across the county, serving every community, especially those that come from our general fund. You know, when it's state required that it be spent in certain census tracts and with certain populations, that's one thing, but when we have the decision to appropriate it accordingly, I do want to review that. And, you know, I just want to make sure that we are living up to that principle, that every community is getting a fair share of services. But again, I see the value here. Clearly, it makes a lot of sense to have our smaller communities combined with resources like this. Just the way it's split is the concern to me. Just wanted to thank everyone again for their discussion.
Okay. Commissioner Morgan?
Just one last comment. Kent County, we hold a lot of things up as we're the only ones in the whole state that have the ability to do some of these programs. This is one of these programs that when you look across the other 83 counties, I don't even think it's even offered or available. And it's pretty unique. And these are the types of programs that we like to say, this is what separates Kent County from the rest of the counties in the state.
Okay. Thank you. We'll go ahead and vote. Pam, can we have a roll call vote on this, please?
Sure. Commissioner Wooden.
No.
Commissioner Bukowski.
Yes.
Commissioner Voorhees.
Yes.
Commissioner Morgan.
Yes.
Commissioner Breivy.
Yes.
Commissioner Womack.
Yes.
Commissioner Antor.
Yes.
Commissioner Sparks.
Yes.
Chair Jones.
Yes. Motion passes. We will go ahead and move on to item 4 from the Health Department.
Yes, this is a request to add one full-time advanced practice provider position and one full-time medical social worker position, and to accept and appropriate $238,000 to the 2018-19 Health Fund budget. The Michigan Department of Health and Human Services has made $180,000 in additional funding available through the Comprehensive Planning, Budgeting, and Contracting Agreement to provide HIV prevention strategies through a pre-exposure program, and to provide hepatitis C case investigation, testing, linkage to care and follow-up. To support the work by the PREP program, the HCV program, and the ongoing prevention programming, the creation of a full-time APP position and full-time MSW position is being recommended. Cost of salary, total costs, and benefits for the position is $191,000. The increased grant funding will support half of the cost of the AP position and the entire cost of the MSW position. The amount of the salary and benefit costs for these positions, which will be funded by this grant, is $133,000. The remaining $58,000 of salary and benefit costs for the AP position will be funded through increased insurance billings for services. If funding is eliminated or decreased, the position will be eliminated unless continuation funding is approved pursuant to fiscal policy on grants, contracts, and donations. This item was recommended by approval from the Legislative and Human Resources Committee at this January 27th committee meeting.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there support? Moved and supported. Questions, comments, and discussion? Anybody? Yes, Commissioner Sparks.
And maybe I just haven't read far enough into this, but if the funding is eliminated or decreased, the position will be eliminated unless continuation funding is approved pursuant to fiscal policy on grants, contract, and donations. So are they depending upon grants and contract work and donations to continue after said time of the funds being spent?
Yes.
Okay.
That's
Yes,
correct.
Okay, and that's for this particular,
Yes.
it's such an important job, you know, and I'd hate to see it go away once. Because, you know, things are tight right now, and a
Right.
lot of people don't aren't able to get grants or contracts. It's just such an important job, and I don't mean to be funny. I mean, I don't know how all this works yet, but it just seems like they need more money to do this. At least if we could maybe fund them for 2 years. I don't know if I'm saying
No,
this
you're,
right.
you're saying.
Am I making sense?
Making very good sense. So whenever these opportunities come, the Health Department will look at their budget, their total budget, and determine how they might be able to assign different other staff to support things. But if in fact they can't, they will have to come back to the board for additional funding.
Okay, so they can come back. It's not that if this doesn't go, if they run out of money, they are able to.
See the need is still there.
Okay.
They have the opportunity to come back for funding. Chris, you want to add something to that?
At this point, the funding is partly from the CDC and the state of Michigan, and we've been told it's fairly secure for some time now. So we're anticipating at least several years out of this.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. The motion passes. That brings us to item 5 on the agenda from the Kent County Community Action. Women?
Yes, this is a request to add one full-time shipping and receiving clerk at the Kent County Community Action Agency. The Kent County Community Action Agency is requesting an additional one full-time shipping and receiving clerk to support the Emergency Food Assistance Program. This program distributes USDA food to eligible households in Kent County on a quarterly basis. In November 2018, the Kent County Community Action Agency received $56,000 in increase in funding for its 2018-19 grant. And based on the current amount of food being received, there's difficulty to meet vendors at the warehouse to process and deliver food in a timely manner. The cost of the new position is $56,000 for additional wages and benefits. Increased grant funds will cover the cost of the position. If grant funding is eliminated or decreased, the position will be eliminated unless continuation funding is approved pursuant to the fiscal policies on grants, contracts, and obligations, and donations. This item was recommended for approval by the Legislative and Human Resources Committee at its January 22nd, 2019 meeting.
Thank you, Wayman. Is there a motion to approve? Is there support? Moved and supported. Questions, comments, and discussion? Yes, Commissioner Bukowski.
Thank you. My questions kind of go back to the collaborative set, where when I read through this, my main question was, what does Feeding West Michigan do? How is this different? And you know that I'm assuming it's the bulk foods, when USDA, United States Department of Agriculture. And then, of course, also surprised when you read the source of this grant, it's the Michigan Department of Education. So, like, the USDA launders its food through the Michigan Department of Education as opposed to, like, it.
You're going to help us out, Matthew?
Gonna try.
Yeah.
The USDA provides the food at the federal level. It's commodity programs, and it goes through MDE because it's part of the food lunch programs. So we also have a contract to the county at the detention center with MDE because they're the ones that provide the commodities. So that's the reason for that. Feeding America buys food from the private sector that's been damaged or other things to help get to food pantries. These are government commodities that are bought and then distributed to community action agencies all across the state for distribution to lower income residents throughout the state.
So is there collaboration between Feeding America and Community Action on who's distributing food to whom and how and that process?
There's discussions. That's part of the whole ENTF infrastructure that the community is a part of. Essential needs task force that the county is a part of.
Okay, anyone else? Yes, Commissioner Antor.
Thank you, Chair. Use the words emergency in here, and I'm wondering how that applies. Are we in an emergency mode 365 days a year? And is all this food that's coming in, we have more food coming in than we can process, it sounds like, so we added this position. Is the food then being distributed based on need, or is it sitting in a warehouse
There's two
waiting for?
types of food distributions that happen. There's a quarterly food distribution that happens that anybody in the county that's of a certain income eligibility is able to obtain. And then there's monthly food distributions that happen throughout the county for seniors, where we go to senior housing units and other places where we drop off
But
food.
it's income-based.
But it's income-based as well. And the term emergency is a federal term as part of the program.
Well, I suppose you don't have any food in the pantry, that is an emergency, but I know right now there's a lot of, like bridge cards that are distributed and stuff. How do those work together? I mean, if you qualify for a bridge card, do you also qualify for this? Do you know, or?
The income, people would have to apply for the commodity program, and they have to apply separately for a bridge card.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Womack?
Yes, we talked about a few different positions that are going to be added from some of these budget items and grant items that are coming into Kent County. I didn't get a chance to ask on those last two positions, but how is this position going to be advertised? Is someone going to be hired that's already within the department and raised up? Is it going to open up that job, to other residents? And how are these jobs advertised?
The position we follow through our personnel policies, and so it'll be open and people will be able to apply for it.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the previous position. Is that going to be posted as well, or is there an internal candidate we already have identified to fill it?
Excuse me. No, the APP position is a new position. Currently, there's no position like that within the county, so it would have to be posted to the external.
To the external.
Same with the MSW. There is some, obviously, the health department does have social workers within the department that would be eligible to apply, but it would be posted external.
Right. So in this case, they will be posted outside and opportunities will be given to the entire community.
Okay, that's good to know. And I just living in the inner city, food is always an emergency situation, and we live in a county where there's nothing wrong with people having a lot of pride. We got some proud Americans here who don't always want to, wear their problems on their sleeve. They're not always easy to come forward and ask for help. But you also have to think of families and the children out there and single mother families out there. Being a part of those food giveaways in the city of Grand Rapids, you just would imagine. And I know we had the same things. I've lived in Wyoming. I've lived in Cascade, and I couldn't believe that, you're rich one day and the next day you're without work trying to hold on your house. I've seen people lose houses in some of the most affluent areas. And some of those affluent families have, surprisingly, 12 kids in the family. So I believe food is always great, that we are making sure that we have those services for those people in Kent County. So definitely something I'll be supporting today.
Okay, anyone else? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. That brings us to item number 6 on the agenda, Commissioner Miscellaneous. Is there any Commissioner Miscellaneous this morning? Yes, Commissioner Wooden.
Just wanted to thank the administration for the updates during the polar vortex, and very, very glad to hear, at least by Thursday, that there were no mortalities in Kent County. Is that still correct?
That is correct.
Fantastic, and that's just fantastic work on behalf of the entire community. So thank you very much.
Yes, Commissioner Womack.
Yes, I would like to just say I believe Kent County, our villages and our city did a great job when it came to the snow. In our emergency state of weather this week, I talked to Grand Rapids Police Department because I was out trying to help a few people. I called them to find out what were some of the concerns that they saw from being out there, and they said that they had touched base with a lot of people. I called a Mel Trotter mission, and they said they still had room for people, and they echoed the same thing that the police said, and that it was something that I like to bring forward. Because when we're talking about mental health, there were a lot of people who the police would see in a bus stop sleeping, and they say, hey, you got to come in. We want to take you, inside or to a shelter. And the shelter echoed that there's a lot of times that people just don't want to go in. So there seems to be a little problem with mental health, and in the media, I don't think they touched upon the mental health. And sometimes the police was asking that family members who know they have members out there, they may be able to persuade them to come in. So I just don't want the mental health issue to be lost upon when we're talking about our emergency. And I definitely have some residents who say they like to see more salt laid down upon the streets quicker, especially the main streets. So I just want to add that and definitely keep mental health out there as an issue that definitely can cause us loss of life even in emergency weather situations.
Okay, Commissioner Antor?
Yeah, I echo the job that our Kent County Road Commission did was stellar. I actually called Steve Warren and thanked him for, I mean, they do it all the time. I think we're the best county in the state by far. They always use us as an example as far as road commission. And also on the, you know, with the people, the homeless people, you know, as a former police officer, I remember taking people down to shelters. And there are certain rules that some of them have. If you're going to come in here, you can't be using drugs or alcohol. And sometimes it's based on that. They didn't want to go in there because they didn't want to go by those rules. So there is a lot of mental health issues, but sometimes some of the folks didn't want to, for the 1 or 2 nights, they didn't want to adhere to the rules within the area. So.
Commissioner Reevy?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to echo everyone's response in support of our first responders, our law enforcement, our people at the dispatch and Sheriff's Department. On Tuesday, there's a 24-car pileup right by my house on M6 in Kalamazoo Avenue. And, you know, that's a great example of multiple departments providing mutual aid between Caledonia, Dutton, Cutlerville, Kentwood. You know, it was a big, heavy lift from several communities, cities, and townships working together. So I think, you know, it's important that we approve this fire commission contract, and I think it's, you know, just a great sense of community that we have here, how we were able to band together, and our first responders did an awesome job this past week. I'm glad my kids are back in school.
Anything else? All right, seeing none, we will go to item 7, which is adjournment. Our next meeting date is Tuesday, February 19th at 8:30.